What's up, everybody? It's the Fade Podcast. Your boy Glenn back with Big Jack, ready to talk some Chicago sports and sports in general. With that being said, Chicago sports are in a pretty terrible state right now. The thing we're most excited about is the last place Chicago Bears and their outlook moving forward. So, with that being said, Jack, it's great having you here. Let's get into some Bears conversation.
Yeah,
First thing
no,
I
it's
want, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it's great to be back, man. And first episode with the new name, love it.
Great to have you here, man. It's been too long. But first thing I want to bring up, Ted Phillips, he's out. We got a new president with Kevin Warren. Any parting words for your man, Ted Phillips?
uh my mom always told me if you ain't got nothing nice to say, then don't say nothing.
Fair enough. I
Uh
think we could all say that we wish Ted Phillips nothing but the best in retirement, but to get the fuck out. So, um, with that
nah,
being said, with
yeah.
yeah, with that being said, I gotta say, this draft process is the first time I've been excited for an NFL draft in years. It's nice to have a GM that values capital and doesn't just trade it all away. Uh, we're
Except for the
looking
first pick.
except for the first pick, but he got a nice haul in return. He got a nice haul in return. Um, Jack, as we look at this draft coming up, where's your biggest concern? What do you think needs to be addressed the most? And is there anything you really want to see? Anything you really don't want to see out of the draft?
So yeah, I kind of make that joke about except for trading away the first pick. I do think it was a good trade. We've kind of talked about it before a little bit, but I just, as these reports come out, as we, crawl closer and closer to the actual draft day, a part of me does feel like, man, he could have just gotten more if he was patient, but there's no way to really know that. So I'm not gonna, you know, waver too much. At the end of the day, the compensation he did get was good. I'm not going to deny whether try to sit here and say it was an awful trade. I think it could end up being a great move getting another piece for Justin Fields and DJ Moore. Obviously, he got, some pretty equitable capital for the pick. There's just, that part of me that always is going to kind of question the situation as we get closer and see how the betting odds have moved for these quarterbacks, and all of a sudden Bryce Young is this overwhelming favorite. It's like, man, what could have they really squeezed out of these guys now? It's that what if game you're always going to play in your head. Um, so, but I do like, to what you said, his approach has been generally in the willingness to trade back. He did it a lot last year, kind of turned a lot of, late round picks into multiple later round picks when, at that point in the draft, you're kind of just throwing darts anyway with a blindfold on, uh, hoping something sticks. But that kind of leads me to my point as far as what I hope they do in the draft now that we are at nine. My biggest concern, without a doubt, uh, you can go a lot of places given the roster, but for me, it's still absolutely that front four on the defensive side of the ball. Um, I know, we've made some signings. We made a couple no-name signings. I can't even pull them off the top of my head. That guy out of
I
Houston,
can.
yeah, the guy out of Houston, the guy with the Raiders. Those are some, no-name 1 year type deals, and then obviously they made the slightly bigger splash with Buddy out of Tennessee. Um, so but the guy out of Tennessee worries me just in the sense that he's playing next to Simmons, who is arguably, probably not even arguably, he probably is a top five. Maybe you could argue top three at his position, at that three technique. And obviously, the Bears, they might as well have me playing three technique right now. So that worries me a little bit just from a production standpoint. But he's, at least they did something, I guess. But that's where I look in the draft. If by some miracle Jalen Carter is there at nine, I think you absolutely take him. I can't see a world in which that is the case. You know, you can break it down a million different ways. All the experts have had, 20 mocks by now, and everyone, cooled on the whole Jalen Carter situation at first, but now all of a sudden he's not really slipping past 5 or 6 in between Seattle and Detroit, even though there's always conflicting reports. But at the end of the day, I don't see any possibility he actually slips that deep to 9. So I think if that's the case, I would probably like Poles to kind of stick to his trend in his early career as GM of the willingness to trade back. I believe that, past Jalen Carter and obviously Will Anderson will go before that. There's some other good names out there, some guys I would be happy with, but I think you could probably drop back and get, the guy that you want a little later, while also, raking in some more capital. So I think if you get that big ticket guy, if Carter drops, stay at 9. I hope that they're patient on draft night. I don't know if I'd want to see like, you know, the day or two before all of a sudden they're like, hey, the Bears have moved back. I hope it would more so be like talk to, Pittsburgh's the hot rumor, right? So Pittsburgh at 17, and then they would get that 32nd pick that they shipped off for Claypool, of course. Um, but say, I would like to see something where it's like, hey, we have a deal in place with Pittsburgh. If so and so is on the board, we're taking him. If he's not on the board, we're making the trade. I don't want them to be too eager to jump out of it. But I also don't want them to say, for example, draft Skaronski at 9 just because they're at 9 when they think they could have gotten, Broderick Jones or something at, a little bit later and gotten, not have to wait till that 53rd pick. But
Yeah.
long,
I mean, your first point about Jalen Carter, and if he falls, you got to pick him. I know they're trying to build a culture. Um, the more I'm reading, it almost seems like he might be a good culture guy. As backwards as it sounds, is like his teammates at Georgia kind of love him, and like he loves football. Is kind of what I'm getting. If he's there, I think you take him. I don't think he's going to be there, unfortunately. So I think you're looking at your pick of the offensive tackles, your pick of probably a couple good cornerbacks. Um, Maybe a Tyree Wilson falls, somebody like that, which he could be an interesting piece. Other than that, I think I'm with you. I think if you're not sold on one of the top tackles, or if you feel like you could still get a really good tackle a little bit later, maybe you try to trade back. Obviously, it takes two to tango, but we'll see. You know,
yeah, I think if you take Tyree Wilson at 9, I'm not I'm not mad at all.
no, you can't be upset about that. I think you. I don't think he's going to be there though, unfortunately. But
No.
if he's there, I think you take him. Will Anderson won't be there, but if he's somehow there, you take him. Um, you know, Going into the draft, you got to walk away with probably two or three defensive linemen, realistically. Not even necessarily starters, but this day in the NFL, a lot of D lines like rotate in a ton. So you got to get like two or three defensive linemen relatively high in the draft. You probably got to get a cornerback, and you probably got to get a right tackle. If you get those things done, um, regardless of where you pick, I think I'm okay. Hopefully, they're just not reaching.
Yeah, I just, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I just don't know how it's just the value situation. I don't know if I want to be spending that high of a pick on a right tackle. Um,
Well,
I
the
guess
only
if they trade back and take that guy out of Tennessee that everyone seems to love, okay, maybe I could get down with that. But man, you you really better hope Braxton Jones is the real deal because I am certainly not convinced myself. Good year, good rookie season, you know, showed something, but he's not like it's not like this guy's a surefire Hall of Famer.
I agree.
I'd be more open to the idea of potentially drafting that true guy you think you could play left tackle and moving Braxton Jones to right tackle.
100%. That's a
Um,
luxury. That's a luxury you get when you draft Braxton in the fourth, fifth round, whatever he was. Absolutely.
yeah,
If
fifth.
there's a guy at 9 that you think is a left tackle cornerstone piece, you know, I keep thinking of everything in terms of Detroit because they have a pretty cool YouTube series that showed the behind the scenes of their draft. If you see a guy that's your Panay Sewell, you know your left tackle cornerstone, you draft him and you'll figure out Braxton Jones whether he's a backup left tackle or if he's your right tackle or a swing tackle, whatever you want to call him. If you see a guy, if Paris Johnson, if Broderick Jones, Anton Harrison even is your left tackle that you're like that's our left tackle of the future, you draft that guy because that's the position of value, 100%. And Braxton had a nice surprising year as a fourth round pick. He's still a fourth round pick out of Southern Utah or wherever the hell he's from. You know, he's not the ninth overall pick out of Ohio State or Georgia. You know, like
Yeah, no, and I get it that the NFL is, chock full of undrafted guys, late draft guys, and it's, a work ethic thing and all that. And that's, nothing to say against it, but I'm just not sold on a guy who he had a decent rookie year that looks like a great rookie year because of where he was drafted.
thousand
You know,
percent.
I don't, so you know what I mean? I don't
Yep.
necessarily know if that means he's like the left tackle of the future, which is why I've been a little disappointed with the free agency situation. I would have loved to see them, win out and got Orlando Brown, especially after seeing what his contract was, but didn't happen. We're at where we're at. You know, I gotta believe Poles probably thinks he can do something similar to what he did with Braxton Jones. He trusts his, offensive tackle evaluations as kind of being his bread and butter. So maybe he thinks, hey, I don't need to spend crazy value on this sort of position because I can find the gems, I can find the diamonds in the rough. But that's why makes me worried about sticking at 9 and taking one of these guys on the offensive line who doesn't really seem to be a true blue chipper, if you will. Um, people like Skaronski, but I've heard a lot of chatter about along the lines of if you kick him inside to guard, he'll be a Hall of Famer or he'll be a stud guard. Okay, great. We talk about it all the time. There's positions of value, but you're still building a football team. You need
Yeah.
22 positions out there. You need
Yep.
guys who are good everywhere. So I'm not going to be mad about getting a stud guard if that's the case. But at the same time, if
Need some
that's what
tackles.
we're if that's what we're looking at, I'd rather trade back. So
Definitely.
for me, it's if we're sticking at 9, it's because one of those top two guys that we kind of talked about, the probably not even realistic, but the slight outside possibility of Carter or Wilson falling, then yeah, you stick there. I'm fine with you taking that guy at 9. Otherwise, if we are going to go offensive tackle, I think it's for me, it's got to be a trade back. So at least we can jump back in there and get someone else on that defensive line before 53, because that's a long ways to go between 9 and 53 right now given the holes on both sides of the ball.
Only problem with the logic there at all, or the only problem I see is I don't think Johnson or Jones, which I think are the two guys you're referring to as the two like top tier left tackle prospects here. I
Well, I
don't
think
think either.
Skronsky is still technically number one, even though people
Yeah, but
like him
he's
better
not
as
going
a
to be a
guard.
left tackle. I don't think. I think he's
Yeah, that's fair.
a right
Yeah,
tackle at best. If you're talking Johnson Jones as the two like premier left tackle prospects, I don't even think both of. I don't think either of them are there at 17 potentially. They might both
yeah.
be gone. So it's like if they've convinced themselves that one of those guys could be the left tackle cornerstone and they're there at 9, I'm almost okay with them taking it, and then we'll just piece together the defense this year and figure it out. I don't know. It's a tough spot. It's a weird draft. It's one of those drafts. You know, I honestly haven't paid that much attention with Ryan Pace's GM because we never had draft picks, but it feels like a draft where there's like a couple guys, and then there's like half a dozen more guys, and then it's like you're better off picking between 30 and 60 than like 15 and 30. It's really weird. It's like I don't know, it's strange. The value's all over the place, but um
Yeah, I think I heard I think it was McShay or Kuiper, one of those two main guys over at ESPN, talking about how like they only have 17 or 18 true first round grades in this draft. So it kind of speaks to what you're saying about like it's just a little muddy with everything else past a certain point.
yeah,
And
it seems like you could get like decent value second, third, fourth round, but it's like late first round, you're almost better off like trying to get, you know, two second and
more
third
picks.
rounders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because those guys got just as good of a chance. I see what
Right.
you're saying. Yeah. And I mean, I think, your point is also valid about like, I don't like the idea necessarily of reaching to be like, well, at least we'll get the guy we want. But I do get your point about like, yeah, if you move back too far and then you're like, all right, we're taking, you know,
Well,
however you say
it's
his name, like Calais Kanji or
right.
Kanji, whatever that the three technique out of Pittsburgh, like, yeah, I'd probably be happy with that pick depending on how late it was. But you're also probably kind of just like, taking a little bit more of a, this guy has first round grades, but is he like a top dog? I don't know about that. So like you're not gonna be I don't know if we'll be like, ripping shots, partying because we got, some guy at 17 who like might be good. Whereas if, maybe you get that guy at 9 or, don't drop too far back, maybe you slip to like 12 or 13 and you're like, all right, well, maybe we could have played a little riskier and got him later, but like at least this guy is someone we can get excited about type of thing.
Right, because like if you're looking at the board, I think Tennessee's 11. They can use a tackle. Texans are 12. They could use a tackle. It would be a right tackle though. It wouldn't be a left because they got Tunsil. 13 is the Jets. They could use a tackle. I believe the Patriots are 14. They could use a tackle. There's like from 10 to 20. There's like 7 teams that could, in theory, draft a tackle if they saw the
Well,
value there.
dude, we talk about it all the time, and one of the reasons why I started off kind of by saying that I'm more interested in that defensive line
Yeah,
need than anything else is because yeah, the Bears' offensive line is far from perfect, but it's also not like
it's not
pathetic.
terrible.
It's
No.
not it's not nearly as bad as people like
Yeah.
act as though it is. Justin Fields needs to get rid of the ball. He needs to learn how to get better. He needs to turn it loose. He's got to improve upon some things in order to help that line out. And yeah, they need to be better. They could be better. We got to make some moves, absolutely. But there's a reason that the defense was
It's the worst. Yeah,
historically bad on the front, and that's what needs to change.
I agree.
So,
And that and if you get
but
if you get a better defense that helps the offense, that helps the quarterback, it helps everybody.
right. But that's my point though too, is like you're saying all these X, Y, and Z, all these teams could use a tackle. And it's like, yeah, because in reality, there's like one or two lines every year who are like, as the season progresses, you're like, all right, they had a dope line. Like the
Yeah,
Eagles, like they had a dope line last year. But
Cowboys
like
5 years ago.
right, like
Yeah,
it's not the Chiefs, do they have that good of an offensive line? I don't think so. The Bengals, like they try to improve their line, but where they like Joe Burrow still gets put in the dirt all the time. Like
no, you're
you know,
right.
the,
You're right.
everyone could use a better offensive line. So it's not like, yeah, we want those guys, but you got to be able to got to be able to get rid of the ball and do some other things too. It can't
Yeah,
just blame it strictly on
it's
that.
okay to have a middle of the road offensive line, and I feel like that's kind of where the Bears are at. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right, to round out the draft talk here, Kaplan, David Kaplan from ESPN 1000 had he had a story that he followed up on today that there's a lot of rumors behind the Bears taking running back Bijan Robinson with the ninth pick. How many TVs would you break if that were the case, Jack?
Well, honestly, zero, because I'm not. I can banter with the best of them, but I'm not actually a lunatic.
Okay.
Uh, but No, that's not something you do.
No.
That's
Can't take
I'm trying.
can't take Bijan and another hot name is Jackson Smith and Jigba. You can't take either of those dudes with this draft, I feel like.
No, so okay. First, I'll say Bijan because that's who you brought up first. Um, Absolutely not. Even if you had the 30th pick and Bijan Robinson was there, you're not taking him. You're just not. It's so foolish and absolutely insane to even contemplate the possibility that that would ever happen. There's no way anyone would be that stupid to do it, especially not with this team. If you're the if you're the Eagles, right? The Eagles have two first round draft picks this year. They almost won the Super Bowl. So you with your first pick, I think they're at what, like 12
10.
or 13
10.
or they're at 10, or they're
Yeah.
that early. So their first pick at 10, right? You go out and get a piece that matters. That's going to be, big time. And then I think they pick again at like 30 or pretty
Yeah,
late.
30.
Um, and if at 30, Bijan Robinson is still there, which he most certainly will be, I would imagine,
Oh,
because he plays running back. Like, who cares? Um, then I'd be like, all right, we almost won a Super Bowl. He's a luxury piece. Let's go out and get this guy. Maybe he could help us get over the hump in the next like year or two. But when you're the Bears, yeah, right, man. No shot in hell. You cannot be that dumb. There is absolutely no chance, no way, no how. If the Bears even sniff a running back before the fourth round, then this organization is just beyond the point of doom and gloom. There's some good things happening and, hopefully some brighter horizons ahead, but no, Bijan Robinson, no, 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 absolutely not.
Okay, fair
No.
enough. All right, next topic. We
Um,
spent a lot of time on the draft. You ready for
yeah,
the next topic?
but Jackson Smith and Jigba, I don't want it, but I wouldn't be as like
As upset
what
as Bijan.
as devastated as
Okay.
Bijan Robinson, because I do think that there's something to be said about the fact that Jackson Smith Jigba is like pretty clearly just a strict slot guy, and we have DJ Moore and Claypool to play outside.
Yeah, it'll mean Mooney's gone after the year probably, but that's okay.
Right, and then that would just mean you don't have to pay Mooney, and if Claypool sucks, you don't have to pay him either, and then you still have DJ Moore and Najigba. Hopefully, he's a
And two
stud.
first-round picks next year.
Right, but I also feel like in the same breath, kind of probably the reason that you're like you can't take him there is, I mean, the Bears traded for Claypool, they traded for DJ Moore. Like, you've addressed receiver
Yeah.
to a pretty heavy extent. I can't imagine spending more capital instantly at that position.
And people will laugh at St. Brown and Pettis, and if those are your first two guys, I agree that's laughable. But like at 4 and 5, like those are capable backups, man. Like
Yeah, they're fine.
the
You're not. I
receiver
mean,
room, the receiver room's pretty rounded out right now in my mind. I think that we got six with Moore, Claypool, Mooney, uh, St. Brown, Pettis, Velas. Those are probably the six that make the roster. Um, I could maybe see them adding one to compete with like St. Brown and Pettis. I think they'll probably keep Velas, but I don't know.
yeah. I mean, and dude, let's be honest too. The wide receiver room is it depends on the quarterback.
Yeah, big time.
Like, okay, yes, Miami, they got a crack in wide receiver room. You got Tyreek Hill, Waddle, those are some weapons. Um, you know, eh, for the most part, it's not like the Chiefs have a good wide receiver
No.
room. They have Travis Kelsey, and Mahomes just kind of does his thing.
Yep.
You know, Cincinnati, yes, they have a dope receiving room, absolutely.
They also got
Jamar
Bro.
Chase, Higgins, but Burrow's, slinging the rock. So I think that a lot of it comes down to what that quarterback's going to be able to do for you.
Amen,
So
brother. All right. We're gonna probably have to move relatively quickly through the next topics just based on timing. But um, next topic with the Bears is there's a report that came out. Oh, I forget the name of the writer that came out with it, but essentially they looked at every quarterback since I think the year 2000 to play at least I want to say it was 25 starts through the first two seasons and ranked them all. and there was 49 quarterbacks that made this cut of, and it's strictly based on passing, right? Um, Out of 49 quarterbacks, Justin Fields ranked 49th. I want to say Herbert was number one. I want to say Trubisky was like 28. Um, you got guys like Davis Mills. I mean, this isn't just like guys in good systems. This is shitty quarterbacks on shitty teams um, that just happen to start a lot of games for 2 years. And Justin Fields is in last place. I am one of the biggest, in my mind, Field supporters in terms of he showed me a lot in terms of his uh, like the way he carries himself and the way he led this team this last year, despite a pretty terrible record and questionable passing success. But when you see a report like this where he is last out of a bunch of shitty quarterbacks, it's tough to keep that same enthusiasm. You want to share some of your thoughts on Justin Fields? I know that you got your issues with him big time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sold on Fields by any stretch of the imagination. I make no secret about it. I was and still am probably one of the biggest Mitch bashers out there, and I can't have the opinion that I had on Mitch and not have us be honest about Justin Fields. He has not shown much of anything as far as his ability to throw the football. He lacks a willingness to throw the football. Um, he's not a good decision maker as far as throwing the ball goes. His passing game needs to improve drastically. But as much as I, can tongue in cheek about, thoughts on Fields, I still agree that he showed improvement from year one to year two. There's absolutely no doubt about that. He's done some remarkable things with his legs, things that probably literally no one else in the league can do, uh, which is exciting and promising. But he is not not shown me a glimmer of much as far as the passing game is concerned. And I think that the Bears are in a good position in the sense of they don't have to make a decision on him. You have one more year, a full season ahead of you. I think they've gone about the business of getting him some weapons. Hopefully, an offseason with Claypool doesn't make that trade look as horrendous as it does in the current state. They obviously made the other trade to bring in DJ Moore. Hopefully, you get Mooney healthy. Komet, kind of keeps growing himself. He had a pretty solid
Tunyon.
end of the season, and they brought in Tunyon too. Good point. They got a lot of guys now who he can get the rock to that can make plays for him. It seems like yes, all they've really done so far is this Nate Davis signing, which is a little peculiar because one of your bright spots was Tevin Jenkins in the position that I'm assuming Nate Davis is going to play. Um, but they're trying to improve the line. They've got him more weapons. And, I think they put him in a position to kind of say, go out and show us, the next step in the progression along the way. I do, I agree with some of what you said. I like his leadership for the most part. It seems like, uh, his body language isn't always the best, but I don't really care about that. It's, people always bash Jay Cutler, and, you know,
Oh,
I'm
Cuddy
probably
was on
like,
that list, by the way.
yeah, I
You want to
probably
guess where
like
he
Cutler
was?
as far as just throwing the ball
Yeah,
out of 49
yeah.
quarterbacks. I would guess like 17.
He was like fifth.
Fifth.
Yeah, he was up there.
Oh,
You got to remember that's Denver
uh,
Cuddy though too.
yeah, early on. That's
Yeah,
fair. That's fair.
yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I probably like Cuddy more than most people did. But he was horrible with body language. I didn't. I don't. I mean, who cares? Who cares what you do on the sideline? I care what you do on the field. It seems like the guys like Fields. It seems like he, in his press conferences, he takes ownership of stuff. And I love his
It's
comment when they asked him about something to the effect of like, "Was you a little upset that you didn't play that last game to try to get that record for rushing?" He's like, "No, like I play quarterback. I want passing records."
it
So I
seems
think he
like
had,
I was gonna say. So you said like the guys in the locker room respect him. I would say that it seems like people around the league kind of respect him, like players around the league too, which I think that carries a little bit of weight as well. You know,
Yeah, definitely. And I still am hopeful on him. Um, I think
same.
that the Bears have done the right thing in the sense of not just abandoning him and sticking with that number one pick and drafting one of these guys at quarterback this year. Just build capital, build the roster, make the team better. Hopefully Fields keeps getting better and Fields is the guy. And if not, you're in a position where the team keeps getting better for when you draft the guy who, potentially can be the legitimate franchise quarterback. So I'm hopeful on Fields. I'm not sold on him, but I'm still not checked out. Got to see what he does this year. And fortunately for the Bears, that's all they need to do. They can sit and wait, see how this full entire season goes, 17 more games. If we're lucky, maybe a little more. And, that you can kind of make your decision after you get all that information in.
I think that's a fair, logical response, Jack. All right. Next topic: division outlook for the season. Seems like there's a lot of hype behind Detroit. Obviously, they finished strong last year. Didn't quite make the playoffs, but ruined the Packers' playoff aspirations. Team with a lot of momentum. Seems like they're doing a lot of good things up there, building the roster right, kind of their culture correctly as well. Um, are you buying this Detroit hype, or you think it's a little overblown? There's talks that like if they nail this draft, granted they have two firsts and two seconds, there's talk like they're Super Bowl contenders if they nail this draft. Do you buy that, or do you think that's a little overblown?
I think it's I think it's a little overblown. I don't think it's like, hot take overblown.
Yep.
It's still Detroit. Jared Goff is still their quarterback. If you look at their road and home splits as an offense last year, it's like wildly different. What Goff kind of can do in the comfort of a dome and how that offense operates compared to what they did on the road. And I get it. They had that kind of, you know, game that caught a lot of buzz that you just mentioned at the end of the season, stepping up when nothing mattered for them, and they still stuck it to the Packers. But it's hard for me to, be totally all in on Jared Goff. It's hard for me to be all in on Campbell as a head coach. Give them credit. They're obviously what they're doing is working. I do think they've done a great job of building their roster. It's something to envy and, in a way, sort of mimic. The Bears need to kind of build the lines the way that the Lions have. It makes, winning in the trenches is how you build a winning team. Um, so I do think that they'll be good. I think that they probably should be the favorite going in. We always, I'm probably one of the, handful of people out there who still likes Kirk Cousins more than most, but I still think the Vikings will win the division. If I had to make a pick today, gun to head, I'd go Vikings. But yeah, like you said, the Lions are in a good spot and have a good amount of draft capital coming their way. I just don't love Jared Goff, and it's hard for me to really fully buy into the Lions. And then also the obvious imminent departure of Aaron Rodgers kind of does make the division wide open. The NFC in
Makes it
general is
wide
what
open.
the NFC in general is just wide open, man. All of the guys are in the AFC. Every quarterback's in the AFC. The NFC is just the wild west, man. I think in a league like the NFL, that's so much about parity. I think that things may be bleak right now. The Bears literally were just the worst team in the NFL, but you get this draft right, Justin Fields takes those next steps and becomes, the guy that we are desperately hope that, that our parents desperately hoped for. We haven't had a quarterback in literally forever.
Cuddy.
Uh, so yeah, our guy. Um, but if he's, takes those next steps, why not? I think the Bears could step up and do some things. But yeah, it is crazy how much love the Lions are getting all over the place.
Yeah, they're getting a ton of hype.
What do you think they're overblown, or do you think they could be legit?
I'm a fan of them, as weird as it sounds to say, um, but I think it's overblown. They're still a young roster. They're going to add some draft picks, but those are still going to be young players. Like you said, Jared Goff is not like a bona fide stud quarterback. He had a nice year last year. I think he'll be okay next year. Um, would I expect them to probably make the playoffs? Yeah. And anything can happen when you make the playoffs, but um, to act like they're a Super Bowl favorite, I think is overblown. Um, Definitely. It actually wouldn't shock me if one of those top four quarterbacks that everybody talks about falls to six, which is probably realistic. Wouldn't shock me if they took a quarterback, to be honest.
Really?
Like if that Anthony Richardson dude somehow fell and they were just like, yeah, we're picking him. He's not playing this year. He's not anywhere near ready, but we see it as like an investment. Like if they're going to be a good team and they're going to be a playoff team, they're not going to have that super high pick again. So I think if one of those quarterbacks fall, I think it's a potential pick. I also
Yeah.
could just see them addressing some needs as well. So I don't know.
Well,
We'll see.
that's an interesting point. And I don't disagree. I think it's a good one, honestly. Like you said, someone slips or as they sort of go through their process of evaluating all the guys, and someone kind of jumps out to them. They're like, I mean, dude, look at the I'm not even going to bring up the Bears portion of it, but look at the Mahomes draft. There's all those stories have come out about, the Chiefs drafted Mahomes at 10 or whatever it was, and they had Alex Smith, who was a Pro Bowl quarterback, and Andy Reid was just like, all right, this guy's it. This is the guy
Yep.
that could change something. So why wouldn't the Lions? They got Jared Goff right now, he's been good for them. Honestly, he really has. He's been way better than I think anybody would have expected.
Yep.
So credit to him. But why not? If you see a guy who you think can really change the trajectory of your franchise, why not go get him? Because there's no position that can do that in any other sport like quarterback can in the NFL.
Amen.
And at the same time, when the Chiefs took Mahomes, Sean Payton is on record as saying he was going to take Mahomes at 11, and then the Chiefs traded up and drafted Mahomes. They drafted Marshawn Lattimore, ended up being a great player for them. But Breeze was right in the middle of his prime
Right.
when all this was. Maybe not in the middle of it. But he was still in his
Yeah, but
prime.
he
He
was
was still one of
still
the
one of the
best.
best quarterbacks in the league. Yeah.
Exactly. And they were still a Super Bowl contender year in and year out with Breeze. And Sean Payton said, I was going to draft him with our 11th overall pick. So, it wouldn't be outlandish to think that just because you have a high pick and you have a decent team, if that guy comes along, it's not unprecedented that you would go get him.
Especially if Carter's gone, if Anderson's gone, and Richardson, Levis, whoever falls, Stroud maybe falls. Why not? Um, Pick them. Even if your game plan isn't to play them this year, you still, in theory, have the 18th pick, and you have two second rounders. You can still address needs there, and I could see it happening. I mean, we'll see. That's part of the fun of the draft. But anyways, division outlook wise, I see Vikings and Lions pushing for playoffs. I see Bears probably not being quite there unless everything goes right. Then maybe they push for playoffs. Um, Packers with Rodgers being gone, I could see them sucking like big time.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm wrong, but unless Jordan Love comes out and is firing and is a stud quarterback, like that roster is not great up in Green Bay. So I mean,
There's just no way they could go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love also being good. It's
I
it's
agree. I
just
mean,
not possible.
you wouldn't think so, but who knows? All
Yeah,
right.
we'll
Anyways,
see.
you're gonna
Over the Bears
go ahead.
over under win. The Bears over under wins is 7.5. If you had to place that today, where you going? Fifth easiest schedule.
That's what
This
I was
you
gonna
haven't seen.
say.
You haven't seen this schedule yet, as far as like where they got to be traveling, this
But
and
the
that. But it's
opponents,
yeah,
yeah,
it's fifth easiest in the NFL as far as strictly like wins and losses standpoint.
right. And then like one of the toughest games is Kansas City, and I think that's the Germany game. So it's like it's kind of
Yeah,
like all breaking right for them. I mean, gun to my head, like your life is on the line. I probably play the over, but I feel not good about it at all, to be honest. It wouldn't shock me if they were like a 6-11 team. It wouldn't. We'll see what happens with the draft, because even if they hit these pieces, kind of like what I was saying about Detroit, even if they make great selections, these are still first year guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like
Mhm.
it's still a process. It takes a little bit of time. Can you go from worst to first pretty quickly? Yeah. Do I like the free agent signings? Yes. Am I hopeful and optimistic Fields can take the next jump? And is that probably the most important thing? Yes. Are we going to have an actual competent defense this year? I think so. But even if we hit these draft picks, they're still young guys. Fields is still a young quarterback. Like, it's still a young roster that is having to figure it out, playing against other professionals that get paid to play this fucking game. Like, I'd probably bet the over at 7.5 if my life is on the line, but it's not like I feel like it's a for sure winner. I just don't. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's the over's taxed actually quite a bit heavier. I
It's
think the
minus
over's like,
one something, right?
yeah, it's like minus 125,
Yeah.
130 range, and I think the under is like closer to even money, if not like 105 plus 105. But I think if if I was taking my heart out of it, I think I would put money on the under. Um, but uh, that also kind of feeds into my opinion on the Fields situation. I think if Fields is the guy, you're gonna have at least 6 wins. I mean, you
Oh,
if
for
Fields is
sure.
the guy, if Fields is the guy, if you don't have at least six, if not seven, in my mind, there's no doubt that Fields is gone
Yeah,
next
he's
year.
gone.
Absolutely
And,
no
th- and
doubt.
then and then the other thing is, like, so last year Fields gets hurt. If Fields sucks, our backup is horrible. At least this year, and this is pre-draft, so maybe we even add somebody through the draft, like mid-round, late-round pick. Right now, if Fields gets hurt or if Fields starts sucking or like whatever, at least we got like a competent backup. So that's
Yeah,
somewhat encouraging too. I
yeah,
just feel
definitely.
like if you look back at last year objectively, I feel like it was a true like tank. Like, I think they built that front seven so bad because and like traded away anybody that was good because they knew that, like, if you have a terrible front seven, you're gonna be the worst defense in the NFL. It doesn't matter how good Fields plays, how many points you score, you're going to give up 50 every game. It,
Yeah,
it
I
looked like it
mean,
was
dude.
constructed for it.
I mean, Eberflus is a defensive coach and couldn't scheme how to
Right.
keep a baby in his crib, man. They were just getting ran through every single day, every single. It was just pathetic. Like possession after possession was just a cakewalk to the other side of the field. And I agree. I mean, I think that you're right. It was a organized plan, and they got to where they wanted to go, and hopefully now we go from here.
And it was so fun. It was like anytime, like, in Keel Harry would like look so good catching a ball across the middle. Never see him again. Like, it
No,
was so weird. It
yeah,
really felt like a full blown orchestrated tank. Like, as crazy as it sounds, but um, I don't think it's going to be that same situation this year. I think even if they're not ready to compete for a Super Bowl, I think they're ready to start competing every week in, week in, week out to try to win every game. So I lean towards over, but I see the logic with under. All right,
yeah,
you're gonna have to dominate the next two topics, and we'll kind of run through them. But NBA playoffs, what's some of your thoughts? Obviously, I think the biggest story is probably the Kings up 2-0 on the Warriors, but
yeah. So playoffs are going on. Kings Warriors series has been cracking. It's been a good one. Tight games, both of them. First one, the Warriors missed a buzzer beater that would have pushed to overtime. Second one was a tight game. They lost by six, but it's just been an electric series. Kings first time back in the playoffs in 2 decades or whatever it's been, and playing well. It's been a lot of fun to watch. I mean, Kings score. I think they led the league in offense, but they're also like the worst defense in the NBA. So it's just a track meet out there, teams getting up and down. But it's been good in general. I mean, dude, playoff basketball, regardless of I'm biased, I love the NBA in general. I could watch I could watch the Magic and Pistons on a Tuesday night, during the regular season and be happy as a clam. But NBA playoff basketball is top notch, man. It's tough to beat in my opinion. There's a lot of good series. The Clippers Suns is a good series. It's going to be a tight one. Hopefully that Kawhi Leonard injury doesn't really linger. He was out tonight, actually. That game just tipped off a little while ago. But yeah, the Warriors are up 11 right now, and the Kings actually in game three. So without Draymond Green, uh, the West is kind of a crapshoot, man. There's the top, the Denver's the one seed, Memphis is the two seed, Kings are the three seed, and then the Warriors are the six seed, the Lakers are the seven seed. The Clippers are the five seed. All the seeds are kind of like even. There's not really a clear cut favorite. I think anyone could sort of come out of the West. It's very different in the East where Boston is significantly better than everybody else. Milwaukee's significantly better, and Philadelphia. Those top three teams in the East are a juggernaut. No one else even has a chance, in my opinion. I know Milwaukee lost game one to Miami, but that's just a blip on the radar. So I think it's compelling in the West is every series is other than the Nuggets Timberwolves. I think the Nuggets will kind of coast there, but it's a lot of compelling series for the most part. And then the East, once we get to the second round, the East will be a lot more interesting than it is right now. But yeah, man, the NBA playoffs is great. Nothing better.
Who are your predictions to come out of the West and the East? If you had to place a future on it
Mm,
right now.
Well, East is tough. I would say Milwaukee, but Giannis didn't play game two against Miami. He's got a back injury, it seems like. So those are tough to predict, tough to deal with. If Giannis is fine enough to play, which he was questionable, he almost played game two from all the reports. So I'm sure he'll be okay moving forward. At least if they survive the Miami series, I'd imagine he'll be fine. I would say Milwaukee comes out. If Giannis is not healthy, I actually kind of like Philly to do it. Boston's great, but I think I could see someone new kind of rising out of there. So if Giannis is healthy, I'll take Milwaukee. If not, I'll take Philly out of the East.
What
And
about the
then
West?
as far as the West goes, I loved the Clippers going in. I really did. But Paul George isn't looking like he's going to be able to play at all in that first series. Kawhi Leonard is now all of a sudden hurt. Um, I could see they're down 2-0 right now, so it's tough. I could see the Warriors coming out of the West still. I could see them kind of getting right at home, evening up the series 2-2. Wiggins had this personal absence. He's been gone from the team for like 2.5, 3 months or whatever. And like they're refused to even tell the media like what's going on. They just keep citing like a personal issue. But now he's just like back and he's playing. So I think it'll take him a little time to gel with everybody, but I could see them making another run and being right back in it.
That was my guy last year. That was my
Oh
prop
yeah,
guy.
yeah, that's true. That's your boy, the rebound prop god, right there. Um, but yeah, it's tough to say. Like I said, they're literally down 2-0 right now, but I think that would be my pick is the Warriors Bucks ahead of everything else. How about you? You got any thoughts on
No thoughts. All my thoughts are dictated towards the NFL draft right now. So zero
it?
thoughts on the NBA playoffs. When the draft is over, we'll be in round two of the NBA playoffs, and I will start tuning in. So that's where my head's at. All right,
Fair enough.
last topic. I can contribute a little bit on this. My boy Rombo goes out and wins the Masters pretty comfortably on Sunday, just showcasing his immense talent and incredible skill around the golf course. Jack, any thoughts on the current PGA season? Any thoughts on the Masters? Was a pretty cracking Masters. I also, before you get into it, just want to throw out these purses for the PGA are fucking crazy. We're just past the Masters, and I think Scheffler and Rahm have like the most winnings in any year ever for a golfer. Like these golfers are about to start making like 30, 40 million a year if they're winning. It's gonna be crazy. But thoughts
Credit to you, first of all, for John Rahm. I mean, you've been saying John
for
Rahm's the guy
years.
for like 5 years
Yep.
now, and he's really starting to it's really starting to come to fruition.
Yep.
But yeah, live. Not a lot of people pay attention or really care about it too much, from what I could tell. But we kind of banter about it from time to time, and people give me, you know, some shtick about me being an anti live guy, and I'm not at all. I guarantee you, I watch it more than anybody else. I watch every event. I just I think the product kind of sucks. It's just like it's not, in my opinion, golf isn't. It's not a team sport. It's you. You go out there, you play 18 holes, and you try to win the event. You got guys on live talking about like, oh well, I didn't want to get too risky and try to win the tournament and go for this shot and try to make birdie on this hole to try to catch so and so because I knew that we needed team points. It's just like a weird dynamic that's not like, it's not great golf. It doesn't create great drama, in my opinion. Um, but I do think that Live has been awesome for the game in general. It's kind of like what Phil was demonized for when he said he wanted to sort of use Live to create some leverage against the PGA. I mean, it's just made it's very captivating in my opinion. The Masters was incredible television, all the way top to bottom. There was, obviously Brooks was leading through the entire tournament until Rob sort of took over on 7 or 8 or whatever it was, and then sealed the deal on the back nine on Sunday. Phil made that wild run out of nowhere. Ended up finishing tied for second with Brooks, and then Patrick Reed was in the mix. A couple other guys, littered in the leaderboard throughout. But I just think it's, there's the four majors, which are always going to be the pristine events. And now with this live dynamic and all the drama and blah, 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 you get to see these guys who are, truly the best of the best. You can say what you want about live. Yeah, their fields are incredibly weak compared to the PGA Tour. It's indisputable. But they still have like 10 to 15 guys who are top, legitimate top, like 40, probably top 50 at the least players, and some that are top 20. You know what I mean? And now the majors are like the only four events where you really get all the best players in the world in that field competing against each other. And I think it just makes those events that much more exciting. I think golf is in a great spot right now. The elevated events, like you mentioned, these guys already like setting earnings records for the seasons. It's kind of wild, but it's dope for fans. Like you had the Masters 2 weeks ago. Last week was RBC Heritage. Usually, like Dustin Johnson played in the RBC Heritage because it was like one of his top sponsors. But it wasn't like a ton of guys were playing in the RBC Heritage. This year, the RBC Heritage is an elevated event. Almost everybody's playing. Like it's just like you're right
except
back at it.
righteous Rory.
Yeah. Well, he's got to take his mental breaks, man. He needs to work on his, perspective and all that sort of stuff. That guy. But I think it's great for the game. I really do. It's every week, every other week at least, it seems there's these massive tournaments with stacked fields, and they're all, you know, they're all playing for their pride and to win these events and everything else. But those big purses getting juiced, it seems like some of the smaller names are maybe crumbling a little bit under the pressure of that life changing check, if you will. And it's the cream of the crop is really rising to the top, man. All these leaderboards are just juiced with the top players in the world. And for anyone who's a fan of golf, I think it's been a very enjoyable watch this season, top to bottom. And I know that you are just running amok in the fantasy golf league, just leading the charge, about to win the one and done for a few racks.
How bad was it that I didn't get a pick in last week? Oh my god, dude!
Yeah,
Like
I
sick
wasn't
to
gonna
my
I
stomach,
wasn't gonna
dude.
publicize that, but now that you bring it up,
It's such a fuck up. And the thing about it is, I've been of the mindset like, don't think, just shoot. So just keep picking like good guys. Um, I would have picked somebody who would have won some decent money last week for sure, and it'll probably cost me some money in the long run, but that's okay. But no,
Did
I
you
agree.
do
Go ahead.
do you have any real quick before you get to your next point? Do you have any names like off the top of your head that you were considering picking before you
No,
just?
what happened, what I did was at the end of the first day, I went and looked at who I still had available to pick, and it was like the top like 4 or 5 guys were all like doing decent. I'm sure I would have probably picked one of them.
Yeah.
So, but no, I agree. This golf season's been fun. Um, there was something really cool about the major bringing Live and PGA back together. I thought that was really kind of fun, even though they didn't really play it up like too much. It was still kind of cool to see those guys duke it out. I will say, the the less stress of the live tour, maybe if you want to call that, like only having to play 3 rounds every week, guaranteed paychecks, whatever else kind of thing they got going on. Seems like a lot of live guys play pretty well. I went into that thinking like they're not grinding every week, they're not going to play as well. Maybe they played better because they're not grinding every week. So I don't know. It was a cool Masters. I love that my boy Rom went out and won. Um, a lot of big names at the top of the leaderboard. Um, I like Rory, so like I'm not one of those guys that is happy that he played like shit, but I could see how a lot of guys are happy that he didn't play well at the Masters. It's kind of like, when you do all that talking and whatever else, to come out and not perform, it's kind of funny. Um, I don't know. I enjoyed the Masters a lot, and I'm enjoying the golf season for sure. But yeah, I mean, like I said with the NBA talk, I'd be lying if I wasn't just saying that a lot of my attention is towards this NFL draft. It's kind of sad because we're drafting 22-year-old kids, and who knows if any of them are ever any good. You know what I mean? But like, I'm just so excited. This team is on the up and up. We came in last place, but there are some promising pieces. I like what we did in free agency. In our conversation yesterday, the Foreman signing, the TJ Edwards signings, you're like, well, you don't need to spend money at running back and linebacker. Well, those were like pretty conservative. Really, the only splash signing in a position like that was Edmonds, and I think he's going to be a difference maker at Mike. And I don't know, man. I feel I'm sure I'll be wrong because I was wrong about Pace and fucking Nagy, but just feels like something different's going on up with the Bears right now. So we'll see.
I mean, you have every right to be excited. I mean, dude, it's we haven't had a first round pick in.
Years
I mean,
since
with
Khalil Mack
Field.
trade, probably.
No, I mean, we had the Justin Fields one, but
Oh, true.
it it feels like a longer time for whatever reason. But you know, it's exciting time. We not only have a first round pick, we had the first overall. That sort of thing makes such a massive difference.
Two
Obviously, there's
second
already been
rounders.
right. There's obviously already been some action going on with that situation. Involved in the DJ Moore trade. So it's a good time, and hopefully, they just got to go out and get it right. Um, and I don't love the positions that have been signed and where the money has gone in free agency, but it, I think that they've done it wisely. Um, those contracts, even the bigger ones like the Tremaine Edmonds one, it's still a 4-year deal with like a 2-year get out of jail free, basically. So, it's still set up in the sense of I think Poles is being conservative enough to realize like, hey, I don't know about Fields 100% one way or the other, and I don't need to right now, and I'm not going to spend money like I have the answer. Um, and I think that that's good. I think that, they're doing things to hopefully improve the team and start, competing, like you said, and not so much of the, you know, hey, let's shout to the mountaintops, let the world know that we don't want to win, like it seemed like it was last year. But it's also okay to, kind of set it up for, hey, if this doesn't go the way that we want it to go, we're still not going to set the franchise back another, 3-5 year rebuild situation, we'll be in a much better place where we have, the proper pieces in place and the ability to kind of build quickly once we, get the guy who puts everything in motion.
Amen, my man. You got any big draft plans? Should we do a little draft watch party on Zoom or something? Figure something out.
I'm down. I'm down, man. It's a week from today, right?
Yeah, week from today. It's first round on Thursday, uh, which is really the one that's worth watching, and then it's second and third round on Friday. Which obviously, given that we have three picks, late second, early third, we'll want to be like aware of. But I don't know how much we'll be watching. Probably more so be like on the background. And then Saturday is the one that's like it's like during the day and it's like rounds 4 through 7. So
Yeah. No, I'll be locked in the first 2 days for sure. I'm sure I'll be, watching some basketball and kind of have the draft, you know, probably first night, depending on what's going on with the Bears and if they move or if they stick at 9, it'll probably be the main screen. But yeah, I'm looking
imagine
forward to it.
imagine they get Jalen Carter, bro.
Dude, we'll be.
Imagine
I
he
mean,
falls to 9.
if we traded out of one, got what we got, and got Jalen Carter, I mean, I wouldn't even care about my whole value argument and saying we could have got more. I'll be too happy. I'll be too happy.
Amen, brother. All right.
Are you doing anything for the draft? Or you just chilling?
No, I'm just gonna be chilling at home. I think I'm gonna try to get a few buddies on like a Zoom call. Hopefully you. I'll be tuned in, but I'm not gonna really do anything for it. It's at the end of the day, while it is exciting, it is still just picking a 22-year-old kid to hopefully play some good football for you. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I'll tell you what, man. There was no one in the world who was happier than me when they drafted Justin Fields, and I knew Mitch was out the door. So, as down as I could be on him, uh, I still hope for the best, man. And hopefully, this draft we figure it out and keep moving it in the right direction.
amen, my brother. All right, everybody out at home watching, leave a like, leave a subscribe, leave a comment below. Thanks for hanging out with me and Jack in the Fade podcast. Hopefully, you guys are looking forward to the NFL draft and enjoying the NBA playoffs and the golf season so far. We'll be back to you guys hopefully with some more content. We're going to try to be a little more regular with this, even with the off seasons. I wish we had a little bit more Chicago sports to talk about, but unfortunately, Blackhawks, Bulls, White Sox all kind of stink, and we are White Sox fans instead of Cubs fans, so it is kind of tough. But all right, until next time. Thanks for tuning in, and Jack, hit him with it one time before the draft.
Bears.
Bear down.